the National Endowment for the Humanities, bringing you the stories that define us.
I'm going to start recording.
Okay. And then what I'm gonna do is when you're answering the question, I'm gonna mute myself.
Okay.
Just because it's gonna switch to when I'm talking.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So, well, yay! It's nice to meet you both.
Nice to meet you. And how are we gonna do this? Are you gonna be asking questions, or do you
Yes.
just want me to start? Okay, very good.
So I have the questions right here. Okay.
Okay, good.
It's just 13 questions.
Okay.
But you can expand on anything that you think would be best, or anything that you might remember a little bit better.
Okay.
I don't know if would you want for me to email the questions to you, or send you a picture through the phone?
No, that's fine. You
Okay.
can just go ahead and ask them.
Okay. All right.
And then later on, just email them, because that way we want to know and remind ourselves what she spoke.
Right. Okay. Yes. Okay.
And also, Victoria, I'm just gonna be on the side in case we need clarification on something, but she's gonna be doing mainly all the speaking.
Okay. Alrighty. No
Okay.
problem. Yes, that's perfectly fine.
Okay. Are you ready, Mom?
Yes.
Okay.
Awesome. So can you introduce yourself, first and last name, and when you were born?
Oh, well, my name is Ramona Parra. Oh, well, Ramona G. Parra. And my birthday is on December the 31st. I was born in 1926.
Awesome. Okay. And can you tell me the names of your parents?
My parents was Tomás and Felipa González.
Awesome. Okay. One of the first questions that we had for the residents was, growing up in San Elizario, who do you remember was the oldest member of your family? It could be your grandma, it could be your mom, an aunt, uncle.
Well, my grandparents, I guess, but I don't know how old they would be right now. I know they're over 100, but I don't know how old they were before they died. But it was interesting because I remember when my mother used to tell. My mother was born in Morense, Arizona, in 1903. Because her father, a group of people, of men in Sanelli, got together to go to work at the copper mines in Arizona. And of course, they took their wives, their family. So my mother tells me she was born there in Morense. And my grandmother had a hard time. Imagine going by a wagon, and she was already pregnant, and she had cooked a big suitcase.
A trunk.
Okay, a trunk full of bread, so they could at least have enough bread to eat on the way over there. So when they were already there in Morense the first days, she noticed that the bread was going real fast, and she only had a little boy and her husband and herself. Well, finally, she found out that my grandfather was giving out bread to the guys that went without wives, and they didn't know how to cook, so he was at least giving them bread. Okay, that's the story of my mother. And then there was
That's it. She's gonna ask you the questions.
No, continue. Is there another story that you wanted to say?
Well, I remember the thing I have in my mind to tell you was the patron saint of San Elizario was San Isidro. He was the patron saint of the farmers. He is the patron saint of the farmers. And every year they used to take him to 5 farms around San Elio, because they were very far from each other, to have it blessed. He used to spray, a little bit of holy water on the land. That was their custom many years ago. When I was growing up, and still when I was married, they used to do that. I don't remember when they quit doing that to bless the farms. But I remember my grandma also telling me that that during the World War I, there was one boy from Sanelli, a veteran. His name was Antonio Telles, and he was killed in action during World War I. And they took him from overseas, and they brought him then by train to Clint, Texas, as the train passed to Clint, and it is still passed, the trains pass to Clint, Texas, and it's a close to Sanelli. And the body arrived by train at the Clint station, and his brother-in-law went to pick him up in a wagon because he didn't have a truck, he didn't have a car. At that time, in 1918, a few people had cars in Sanelli, and the ones that had them were very small cars. He didn't borrow them because they were too small. So he went to pick up the coffin in a wagon, and the soldiers were ready for him. The train had stopped there. It always stopped at Clint to deliver mail and pick up mail. So they were ready with a body to put it in the wagon, and then they put, of course, the coffin was wrapped up in the American flag, and then the soldiers gave the driver of the wagon a couple of big black bowls. At that time, they used, when somebody died in the family in those days, those years far away, they used to put black wagons, bowls, black bowls in the doors of the family that had somebody that had passed away. So then Mr. Loya decided to put the bowls on the wagon. So they took him, took that straight to the San Elizario church. He was from San Elizario, the boy. And he was the first soldier who was placed inside the San Elizario church for the service. But that was during World War I. And
there's a correction on that. He was not killed in action. He actually died of influenza.
Okay. And that was Mr. Antonio Telles, right?
Antonio Telles, correct.
Okay.
Yes. World War I veteran.
Because I know there was one Antonio, but I think that was from Miss Katie's side, right? Grijalva, that died in World War II.
Correct.
Okay. Yes. Okay. Two different Antonios. Okay.
Yeah, this one is World War I veteran.
World War I. Okay. Awesome.
Okay.
But imagine in those days, it was not strange that people that were, that were sort of waiting outside the church to see it arrive in a horse wagon, because hardly nobody had cars, trucks at that time. But now I bet you would be very funny, or very, just look at him and this and that. Anyway, yeah.
Let her ask you more questions.
Then
But she's gonna ask you more questions. Go ahead with another question.
That is all very interesting because I was gonna ask you about how it was growing up during the World War, World War One, World War Two, if there were any events that you remember that happened during that time. Because many people like me, I didn't live through that, but I hear them, through or read them through textbooks.
Right.
well, when family used to remember him, they always said, Antonio, el que murió en el 18, que murió en el 18, el que murió en el 18.
But
He was not married. He was single, and he had a younger brother, an older sister, well, she was married, and her husband was the one who had a wagon and horses and went to pick him up. So I was very, of course, I was not born during the 18, but I got to know them afterwards when they were very old and I was very young.
Yes, totally. Do you recall when you were growing up? Because I ask this to every member that I speak to. Was there a family tradition? Because you were the youngest of your family?
I don't think so.
you were the oldest.
Yeah,
Yeah, you were the oldest.
yeah, but I have older cousins. Well, I was older of my family, of my father and my mother. I was the oldest one.
You're the oldest child.
Yes.
Okay, alrighty. Do you recall growing up in San Elizario any traditions that you would have as a family, like going to the fiestas or farming or
Yeah, there's another thing every time, like the Fiesta of San Elizario in September, they always used to have a fiesta there in the kiosk and all that, a procession and around the kiosk and all that. We used to go, me and my cousins, since I was the only child in my father and my mother's side. But I have cousins that live nearby, so we used to go and we were anxious to get to the fiesta a few days before. We were so anxious, so we could go to the fiesta.
Look over here.
was there a specific traditional food that you always remember? Maybe your mom cooked it, maybe somebody specific cooked it.
I think he made.
Was there a specific kind of food that Chama would cook for you?
Oh yeah, well, what I like best, as we had cows, and she made asaderos or cheese. It depended if she sold more. If somebody bought more milk, she made asaderos, or if she had a lot of milk, nobody bought it, she had to make cheese. So man, I used to eat a lot of what's that? Not the cheese, the tortilla one, the asaderos. I used to eat a lot of asaderos. So please don't offer me any asaderos anymore. Okay.
Did you learn how to make them, or was that enough? You were like, no more, I don't even want to learn them.
Did you learn how to make asaderos?
Well, I used to help her when I grew up, when I was a teenager. I used to help her, but she could really manage the hot, when the cheese was getting ready to pick it up and make the asadero. I couldn't handle the hot, that part when they were very hot. So I just cleaned whatever I was supposed to do and get everything ready. But I used to sell them. I used to go door by door to sell them. And I was very glad because before I got to the church where San Elizario Church is, of course, there was this man that his wife was in bed when she was very sick. And he said, how many asaderos do you have? Sometimes I just had 6 left, and he bought them all. And if I had more, she used to buy, she used to eat a lot of asaderos, he and his wife. So I was very glad. And his name was Manuel Madrid, and he was related to a lot of the Madrids there in Stanley.
And what other animals did you have in the farm?
Well, everybody at that time, they used to have horses to plow, to plant the cotton, the fields, the corn, whatever. The farmers hardly had at that time any tractors, so they had horses. And of course, the cows that give the milk. And just for fun, maybe we used to keep 1 or 2 sheep, but we didn't. You know what? We didn't like I didn't like the milk of animal. It had a different taste than Chiva, milk, the sheep. So, and of course the chickens. And my mother and daddy raised turkeys too. They used to sell a lot of turkeys before Thanksgiving and Christmas. And I felt so sorry when my mother had to kill a chicken or a turkey. She said, hold the patas. Heck no, I couldn't. At the time she was gonna chop off the head, I could let it go up. And she got kind of upset. I remember one Thanksgiving, they used to buy the turkeys. Even the school teacher used to go and buy turkeys from the farm. And my mother saved a turkey for us. And when she was gonna kill it, she was very brave to do that. She put the turkey under a tub, and she asked me to sit on top of the tub, upside down, of course. But the turkey started trying to get out of there, and making a lot of fuss. And my mother was ready. She stick the head of the turkey out of the tub to chop it out. But of course, the turkey was not feeling comfortable, so he was making a lot of racket underneath the tub. And I decided to get up and let it go. And he went and run. Then my mother got so upset. I had to run and get the turkey again. She was so upset because she was ready to chop it up. So she never asked me to hold the turkey anymore. Well, I felt sorry. We raised them since babies, since they were growing up and so cute. And then to chop them off, their head off, to eat them? Heck no. So thanks to God, I married somebody that didn't have a farm.
Yeah, that would be me. I one time for Christmas, they wanted to slaughter a pig in the house. But their mistake was they had it here for 3 days. And I love pigs. Imagine me hearing the pigs suddenly crying because they were killing it. It was horrible. I was like, never again. Nope. No.
Now that you remind me that my father, they raised pigs too. Not very many, but they used to kill one like before Thanksgiving. Of course, when I was in school or very small, my mother didn't let me go. When I was smaller, she didn't let me go. And when my father was not so brave, because somebody else was the one who they used to shoot the pig, and then they killing it and everything, and what a mess it was. Oh my God, so I just helped my mother clean the pots and pans and all that. But when they made the chicharrones, of course, I started to like them. And then my mother said, yeah, you see, and you don't want them to eat the pig, and now how come you're eating the chicharrones? Oh my God.
Yeah. You know what, Miss Margie? It says that our meeting is going to end in 10 minutes.
Oh no, so what do we do?
So I'm going to have to send you another. Sorry about that. Okay. So one of the next questions that I have for you, Miss Parra, is what was the most exciting event that ever occurred in San Elizario when you were growing up?
Well, as it was a small community, as a small town, we used to have the fiestas in September. And I think that was, we really were looking forward. It was so funny. We used to make fun of each other as we were in school. By the way, did you get a new dress for the September fiesta? Asking each other. No, I haven't. Yes, my mother went and she got me a new dress for that, for that day of the fiesta. That were the thrills of us teenagers then, when we were in school, 8th graders now. Maybe I didn't tell you that we had an earthquake. I think that was about the only one. An earthquake in 1931.
Okay, I did not know about that.
Yeah, and it and this paper I had written where it came from. It was here from Texas, coming from the end of Texas. I think I don't know how far it went, but it passed San Eli in 1931. That earthquake.
And tell her what happened that evening, because it hit at night.
Yes, well, that's why my mother, we didn't get, because so I was the only child. And when somebody passed away, old or young, or man or woman, they had to go to the roses. They used to have the wake at the house, not in the church like they do now. So, of course, they had to drag me to go to the roses. Okay, so as my mother was ill, we didn't go during the night of the earthquake, but my father did, and my cousins, and they said there were the men at that time, 1931. The mother, they were helping the mother, the father make the coffin. They had to make it. I guess they couldn't afford to go buy one in El Paso. I don't know that story, that part. But anyway, they were making it, and people, they had no electricity, so they had lamps, like they use on the pump when they water the plant at night. So they were holding the lamps, and people were shopping and get the wood together to make the coffin. And the ladies inside just praying and praying. When suddenly they noticed, the first thing they noticed, they felt something on their feet, like moving it up and down. And at the same time, the table where it was a young girl, teenager, was moving close to them. And some of them they got kind of scared, I guess, and they tried to stand up, and the dirt as it was moving pushed them down. They had to sit down, and it passed right away. But when it was happening, one of the men, they were screaming. That one of the men went to the door and said, "Ladies, don't be afraid. It's an earthquake. It's an earthquake." And at that time, right away, it passed. So those people were there at the quake, praying for the little girl, for the girl that passed away. And of course, I was asleep at the time. My mother didn't wake me up or anything. But it was kind of scary. Nobody at that time knew how it feels when there's an earthquake. And it was the only one before and after. And it came out in the newspaper a few years afterwards.
Sorry about that. My computer is about to die.
Oh no.
If it's not one thing, it's another. But give me a quick second to charge it real quick.
I think it was in August 7th.
I don't remember the date. Was in the date.
Okay, we're okay. It just suddenly it said that, oh, your laptop's gonna die. Um, Speaking about one of the scariest times, apart from the earthquake that happened, was there anything frightening that you ever lived through in San Elisario? Maybe something haunting? Any ghost stories that you want to talk about?
Anything, no, you don't have anything written there on ghost story. And anything that you saw or heard that,
Well, let me see. The paper.
no, listen to what she's asking.
Oh, what was the question, please?
And if you remember any ghost stories or any frightening things that happened when you were growing up.
Oh, ghost stories. Oh, yeah. Well, they used to tell us ghost stories a lot. Our mothers, my aunts, so we could just come and go to bed early, so we won't be playing outside. And they used to tell us a lot of ghost stories. And I don't remember how to put one together. Well, there was. I remember my uncle and then my uncle and a friend of his were working for this big farm. They were working, it was not their farm, and they were irrigating in the middle of the night. It started raining, and they noticed a light, a blue light, far from them. At the end of the field, there were a lot of bushes and growing wild plants. They saw a blue light going up like a candle and going down, up and down. Say, what is that? Do you see what I see? And when they were walking close. They were afraid though, but they were walking towards it. And then as it was raining, suddenly it disappeared. So they said, remember where it is, this how many feet from us, from the road it is, so tomorrow will come. They say that whenever you see a light someplace like that, in a desert or whatever, that it was because it was a buried treasure, that it was a buried treasure. So they decided next day they were going to dig a hole there, with the shovels and things like that, to see that maybe that's what it was, on account of that light. But that they were not supposed to, whoever, that this was a couple, they were not supposed to be, how do I say, envidiosos.
Greedy.
Yeah, because then you could not find anything. They didn't find anything. But that story my uncle kept telling us. You guys that are playing outside hide and go seek, if you see a light, a blue light, let me know. He wanted us to find him a buried treasure someplace. Because at that time they remembered that many years ago, when it was so easy to cross the Rio Grande, a lot of French or whatever people from Mexico used to come across, and sometimes they used to bury their gold and things like that before they find some place to stay. So that's a story they had the old times. But I never heard somebody finding any gold though.
And how about the story about the ghost, the white lady that they used to call the white lady?
The white lady. But then you see, first I think I had something.
No, that's not a ghost story.
No. Yeah. When you were already born when they used to carry that story, a lot of people used to see a white lady in Sanelli. And we never did see a white lady, but it showed up for her where somebody had, for example, a house where somebody had died, that at midnight, especially in dark nights, that you could see a white lady walking there around that place. Or if there was an automobile accident, somebody had been killed, they used to see a white lady that around that place, but we don't know if it was true or not, but they used to say the white lady. So you better kids go to bed early, come inside the house. They used to tell us because there's a white lady will pick you up. So of course we were scared, so we ran inside the house. And that's the story of the white lady.
Yes, and the reason they would tell us is because we live real close to the canal, so the ditch riders would go by, and they would ask my dad, have you ever seen the white lady? And my dad's going like, what white lady? Yeah, they claim, all these people claim that they see it, and she walks from here and goes across the canal, but she's floating. They don't see feet. She just floats.
Yeah, that she's
And she goes across and goes to that tree, and she disappears like if she would go through the tree. So that's why she was called the white lady, because they say she was wearing a long white gown, but they couldn't see any feet, and she would just like float above the road. And they claim that she would come out, well, really not come out, but that's where they would see her. There was this tree catty corner from our house, and that's when they usually would see her. She would go across the bridge, and they go straight right into that tree. The thing is, we never saw her. Sometimes in the summer, we would stay up till 1 a.m. because we wanted to see the white lady, and we never did. So I don't know, maybe because we wanted to see her so badly, we never did. But
I remember,
other people claim that they did. So I don't know, who knows?
I remember that they got on top of the house, and our house, and the roof. They were sitting there just waiting for the white lady, but he never showed up. They say the reason that she disappeared in that tree, it was a mulberry tree, a very large mulberry tree, that because there was probably buried gold in there. They believe because in the time of Pancho Villa, when he used to cross to San Eli, because especially in that house, it was a large adobe house that there lived a farmer, a guy. His name was, well, I don't remember the name they used to call him. Anyway, my mother used to tell us that story, that a lot of the neighbors remember that they could see a certain time, certain day of the month, they could see some guys arriving horses, and all of them thought that the owner of the house was an American guy, but they used to see the guy, a Mexican guy, that was the one who got off the first horse, knocked the door, and the door was open, that he looked a lot like Pancho Villa, his outfit, his hat, and everything. And this guy, the owner of the house, let them in. So they believe that the guy's name was Mr. Holmes, like that he was a very close friend of Pancho Villa. And I was telling this story to a little friend, to a friend younger than myself the other day, and she said, yeah, I remember that story, because my mother said that this guy that used to sell wood to Mr. Holmes during the winter for the fire, for the chimney and all that, that once the guy, he ordered, you bring me, for example, Wednesday night, you bring me Wednesday, I need a load of wood. And that the guy went to take him the wood that day, and that he didn't receive it. He opened the door real wide and he said, would you please come back tomorrow? I'm not ready, so don't unload the wood. And anyway, I don't have the money ready. Come back tomorrow or day after tomorrow. But he left the door open, and the guy that was in the wagon with the wood also said, I saw a guy sitting on the table, and he looked like Pancho Villa. So they decided that it was Pancho Villa who used to visit Mr. Holmes. and buy their rifles and things like that, because when they sold the farm to this family, new family, it was Saucedo. And the lady, Mrs. Saucedo, her sons, started digging in the close to in the patio of the house to put the water pump, because we didn't have, water like we do today. They have to dig and put pipes and all that to get water from the earth. That they start digging, and that they were very surprised that they found a lot of boxes, wooden boxes with ammunition all messed up. There were ammunition, and they called the mother because their father was working. They called the mother and said, "Mother, come here, see what we found. We're not going to dig. We're not going to put a water pump here. Come see." So they started. They were in wooden boxes, all broken and all that. And they put them. They started. The one that was inside where they had dig the hole, started to pick them up and threw them to the side on top, and that they were there were cartouches, bullets. Okay, then the mother said, "No, no, no, don't dare put the water pump there. No, we'll get poison. No, no, dig someplace else." So they went far around digging. Then they found pieces of rifle. So they figured that at the last moment, maybe they were catching up the American side with that Mr. Holmes, and he just buried the rifles, the leftover rifles. He used to sell, they believe that he used to sell the rifles and ammunition to Pancho Villa. So this lady, this young girl that was telling me the story too, she said, "My grandfather used to tell us a story." So then, then it is true.
Wow, that is very interesting then. There's a lot of hidden stories and
Yes, and that's where supposedly the white ghost goes into that tree, and that tree is still there in Sanelli. It's on off Gonzalez Road. It's a huge mulberry tree, so that tree's over 100 years old.
And we used to live before we moved here to Ransom, we used to live on Gonzalez, close to the white lady's house.
she would visit you. Oh my goodness.
This was Victor and Pat, my two sons. They're the oldest. They used to say, "The white lady, mother, why do you want me to come inside so early? Because the white lady will catch me." And they used to make fun of the white lady.
Okay, we're ready for the next question.
Oh my god. No, it's very interesting.
Because other people are gonna finish.
Yeah. What if
I told you,
go ahead, I'm sorry.
I already told you about the earthquake.
Yes, you did.
Yes. Yes. One other question that I have is when because you guys moved away, right, from San Elizario?
Yes.
Okay. You're still here in El Paso, but you moved from away.
Right. We live in Horizon City now.
Okay, great. When you do come to San Elizario, is there a specific spot that you guys always stop by, or you always make sure that you visit when you go to San Elizario?
When we go to Sanelli, where do you always like to stop?
Well, I like to stop in Los Portales and to visit the church. To visit the church, because that's where I was baptized and I got married. And well, it's my church, San Elizario. So there's to be stop. And of course, then I go to Los Portales. I don't have any more relatives thereby. I used to visit close to the church. My godmother used to live there, but she passed away many, many, many years ago. So then we go to the veterans. Well, that's what I used to before I was in the wheelchair. Now we haven't been there. I haven't been there for 3 years now.
No, it's a year
More?
ago, a year ago.
Yeah. We haven't been there for a long time.
Mhm. Okay. Is there a something that was passed down to you from your family? Like a something meaningful. It could be land or it could be an object or it can be just something that was passed down to you.
Well, my only pictures, only pictures of Mary and Jesus.
Well, she did inherit some of her father's farm. She inherited some of that. And then she inherited, oh, well, her grandmother's sewing machine,
Oh, yes,
which is
very old.
it's, it's from July 4th of 1889. And that machine actually traveled to Arizona to the copper mines. When my grandmother would tell us that when her, excuse me, her father went to work over there, well, they took their, most of their personal belongings because they didn't know how long they were staying. So she took that sewing machine to Arizona and brought it back. So we have that. We have several, but Mrs. Mom gave one to my sister. She had 3 large, beautiful pictures of the Holy Family and all the Blessed Sacrament, and basically just like old pictures. But I think that was it, and just her mother. Oh yeah, and a couple of trunks. I have one that belonged to my great grandmother, and my sister has the other trunk, the actual trunk that went to Arizona. My sister has that in Arizona. I went back to Arizona. So yeah, we have a few things that belong to the family back when. Yes.
Wow. And if objects could tell their stories, I can't imagine what that sewing machine would actually say.
I know.
It's beautiful because it's all wood and carved. Even the insurance guy one day he came to collect the insurance money every month, and it was very cold, and I asked him come in, and my husband was still alive, and he noticed a sewing machine. He goes, "What a beautiful!" And he said, "It's a sewing machine." I guess he liked old furniture, antiques. Yes, it is. Even with a suit on and and tie and everything, he let him on the floor to see where you pedal the machine. It has the wrong thing, which I noticed it and all that, but I was not interested to keep it written down the year. It has the name of the factory that made it and the year. So then Margie or you did wrote it on a piece of paper, and now I keep it on a drawer because in case other people ask me, they admire, because now there's sewing machines, moderns. I have a modern one, but part of it is like a plastic or something. It's not pure gold. This one is carved. It's so pretty because it has these signs on the drawers like flowers, but it's wood and then carved. So it's very interesting.
Yeah, and before they would make everything with such details and stuff, which makes everything more beautiful. So,
Right, actually. Yeah.
wow, okay. One other question that I have for you is, if you were to write a book about your memories of San Elizario, what would you name the book?
What would you name the book if you were able to write a book of all your memories of San
Oh,
Elizario?
well,
What would you name it?
memories of San Elizario.
Okay.
I think it would be, because I still remember a lot of my hometown. I went to school there. I belong there. We moved here, 22 years ago?
In 1989.
That's when we moved here.
Mhm.
And my land that I inherit the land, it was sold last year. Was last year, no?
Yeah. she inherited the land and then she transferred that land to my two brothers. And they just sold it this year. One sold it last year at the end of the year, and my other brother just sold it at the beginning of the year.
Okay, okay. Was there a question that you wish you could have asked a family member before they passed away?
Is there a question that you would have liked to have asked one of your family members, Shama, Tata, your tío Miguel, anyone? What would have been?
I don't think so, because my uncle was,
How about asking tío Miguel about the church in Cuadrilla?
oh yeah, I forgot. Also, I don't have the date, the year, but a little church in Cuadrilla, maybe you haven't been there, but it's a little town, small town, before getting to Pavens. From Sanelli to Pavens, it's a little town, Cuadrilla. And the church that is there, it's named St. Joseph Church. And it was built by my grandparents and my tío Miguel, the older one. My father was the youngest of that family, but the older brothers helped my grandfather build that little church, because there were 3 or 4 little houses. And well, the ladies needed one in the church because they had to walk to La Isla. That's another little town close to the river, La Isla. And then or farther go to Famous. So they built that little church. Its name is St. Joseph, and my the land belonged to my grandfather, and he's buried in front of the church, in the front of the door of the church. And we go once in a while to put flowers on the cross and things like that. But now, since the corona and all this, we haven't been there.
Mhm. Yeah, and because my uncle, the one my mom mentioned, my tío Miguel, they moved to California. Basically, most of the family, the Gonzalez on my grandfather's side, moved to California back in the early 1920s, and they stayed there. They never moved back to Texas. So they would go visit and everything. So on one of the trips, my uncle Miguel mentioned that that land was donated by his parents and all this to build a church, etc. So when we got older, maybe 15, 12 years ago, we wanted to do research and just get official documents saying that land was his and then he donated. Well, I've been calling the diocese and we can't find anything. And so it's like, we just wanted to have a document showing that he did donate that, but we haven't been able to. So, that way, we didn't think about it, of asking him all these questions. Maybe that would help, because I'm even trying to get, like, back in the day, what was the address or something? What did they call that street? And I keep coming to dead ends. So those are the questions we wished we had asked him, but we didn't. And now it's like, I don't know if we'll be able to get any answers.
Oh, and another thing, as I understand, I don't have written the year of the church. The first church in the North Valley Catholic Church was San Elisario, of course. Then it was the one in La Isla, a little 2, 3 little houses there, but they built a little church. We went there about 5 years ago, because I remember I was walking with a cane, you were holding me, and we went to a funeral there. Somebody that was close to us, my neighbor was the father. He wanted to be buried there because he was from La Isla. But it's so funny that in records they say the second little church after Sanelli built, after Sanelli. And then they skipped the one San Jose and Cuadrilla, and then they say that the third one was in Pavens. That was the last one in that area. And also it was so funny the other day that it was not completely finished, and it's a large church in Havens. I guess money-wise or things like that, they didn't finish it. The floor was, they didn't put any wood or nothing, it was dirt. And that during the war, Second World War, when they brought some Japanese prisoners to Favors to help pick cotton, things like that to the farmers, that they were the ones who helped finish that church in Favens. So I was surprised. I have never heard that story, and I read it, and I saved the book for the newspaper.
Okay.
Do you have more questions?
I have two more, but I know that we're
Yeah, go ahead.
okay. The last two that I have was, and I was actually about to ask you about how did World War II affect your family, or do you remember World War II?
Well, as I had two cousins that went to Second World War. One of them on my father's side, he was Gonzalez, he came back healthy. On my mother's side, he was killed in action. So, that was a terrible to us. And I had to pick cotton to help, because there were hardly nobody else to help pick cotton. There were not enough people and things like that. But we had enough food. The farmers raised corn and squash and a lot of food. So we raised chickens. So we had plenty to eat at the time. Of course, there was ration on coffee and sugar and things like that. But as I didn't drink coffee, so my coupon for the coffee helped my mom and my dad because I didn't drink coffee. And we were just waiting because a lot of boys from San Eli went to war, and a lot of them died over there. So,
why don't you tell her about Lillian's uncle and dad that they met over there?
Oh, my husband was also, there were five in my husband's side of the family. There were five brothers, and all of them went to war. My husband was the fourth in the family, and he never want to talk about it, nothing. But Lillian's mother, Fina, she could never take a no for an answer, She used to go to the bars there in San Eli at the time when the war was over. There was two bars, and they used to go to one to see. A lot of the guys that came back from war used to get together there, and look for. They used to call my husband Panito because he was very short. His name was Cipriano, but his nickname was Pano, and they called him Panito. And she was Lillian's mother. Look, is Panito here? And looking for Panito. So one day she found him in the other bar where he was having, because the lady sold enchiladas and things like that. And she sat close to him. All right, Panito, please tell me about my brother, because Fina's youngest brother was killed in action. That you saw him, because he wrote to my mother and said that he saw you, and he did. And my husband didn't have any mother because when his younger brother was born, the mother died during childbirth. So he was raised by aunts and cousins. So he said, yes, I did see him. How did you see him? Was he very skinny? Did he look hungry? How did you? No, he looked fine, the same, and happy as because he was a very happy guy and very handsome. The only thing is, he had blonde curly hair, and he hardly had any hair. They used to shave him a lot. And he was a soldier, and it had been raining 3 days, imagine, and digging. the foxholes. They used to call it foxholes, but the way they described them to me, they were like a dish, irrigation dish, and they were building those because they were soon they find out the Germans were coming closer to them. So, and my husband was in a tank the first time I heard that because he never liked to talk about that. And that his the one that was driving the tank, he said, "You guys," they were two in the back, "you guys better get out and stretch your legs because I don't know when we're going to be able to get out of this. Be sure you take your rifles and button your jackets. It's cold outside. It had been raining too, and it was not raining at that time. So when he was walking, and you go to the right and you go to the left on the side of the tank. And as soon as I call you, you come and get inside." So my husband was walking on the right side of the tank and looking, and everybody was waiting. Good luck, look down, yeah, we'll see each other in the States. People, they didn't even know what they were soldiers, and they were together, so they were wishing the best for each other. So suddenly a guy jumped out of the foxhole and said, "Panito, Panito," nickname of my husband. And he ran to him with his arms outstretched to hug him. And my husband just went like this because he was so muddy or dirty. How could he get like that in the tent? And the guy at the same time stopped. Oh my God, but he was going to hug him. And he walked with him a little space. They called him back. "Come back here, here's your job," because they were really working hard on digging that they used to call them foxholes. And he said he wrote his mother, that was Lillian Sanko I'm talking about.
But what is his name? You didn't tell Victoria. What is his name?
Tony.
Okay, Tony what?
Antonio Grijalva.
Okay.
Antonio Grijalva, yeah. And he was very husband. They used to call him, well, he was, all the girls, "Hi, Tony." Well, he was a very handsome guy. And my husband said, "But poor guy, he had shaved off his hair. He had no curls when he saw me at the lab because he removed his little hat that they were wearing." And he wrote his mother that he had seen my husband, and my husband wrote his sister, "Oh, I saw Tony Grijalva," and we talked a little bit about Sanelli. We walked together a little bit, and we wished they wish each other the best, but Tony didn't come home. That was Lillian Sanko, the baby of the house. And they used to bring the bodies or something because I remember my mother and I went to the wake at the house. And the mother was, of course, very cried and all that.
The last. Okay, third time's the charm.
And I think actually she had just finished with that, but
Okay.
I wanted to make sure she had given the name.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Well, I just have just one last question, Ms. Parra. Is oh, actually I have three left.
It's
two
okay.
left. I'm sorry?
It's okay, go ahead.
Okay, awesome. I don't know why it's doing this. Okay. The last question that I have, the last three questions that I have is what improvements have you seen in the city that you've liked the best, or have you seen any improvements that you haven't liked?
If you've seen any improvements in Sanelli or things that you don't like seeing, is right?
Yes,
What
Or-
thing,
Or how has San Elizario changed throughout the years?
how has San Elizario changed in the years?
Well, there are so many new people that we don't know. There's a lot of new people, as there are, where it used to be farmland, a lot of farmland. they sold the lands and new houses were built there. People from different places are living now in Sanelli that we don't know them like we used to. We used to know everybody, you know. And now that's different. And of course, when we hardly go now to Los Portales or so, I don't know what, but they say that still a lot of people gather on weekends there at the little town, which I'm glad. And I'm glad when we moved here, there was already the new high school because it's not so old because we didn't have a high school at the time. My girls had to go to Clint or Isleta to high school. And I don't know about grocery stores. I haven't been there for a long time. And it's I remember whenever we go, if we go for some reason to a funeral of somebody that we know or relative, whatever, we hardly know any people. There are a lot of new people there that we don't know, like we used to. Everybody, hello, papa, and everything. Like I used to say to my cousin, golly, we're so close to all the neighbors, to all the little people of Sanelli that when we buy a new dress, they even know when we see each other, they even know how much we paid or where we bought this dress because we were so close and small community.
Is there anything that you hope to leave for the next generation of your family?
Is there anything, what was that again? Is there anything
that she wants to leave for the next generation?
that you want to leave for the next generation?
Well, right now I have no idea, but I wish they keep on being friendly and like the ones we have old relatives, you know, the older relatives passed away, but the younger to stick together and not forget that Sanelli is a very, very old town and our church, we're proud of our church. Because many years ago, I don't remember, my mama was very young at the time. They built a beautiful convent for nuns in Sanelli. That was many years ago. I don't remember. I don't have it here. But nobody in Sanelli wanted to become a nun. So no, it was a school of nuns. Only they had a few ones. They said there were not even 7 girls, but they were from El Paso. So imagine they have two relatives used to come to visit them because there was no transportation, no bus, no taxis, or nothing. So, but now it turned to farmlands and things like that. And now they're also not planting a lot of cotton or alfalfa like they used to. They're building more homes. So I don't know, it's becoming bigger than everything.
Yeah, it really is.
It's different.
Mm-hmm. Anything else that you want to add, Ms. Parra, before I stop recording?
This one here on
oh yeah, the Sanelli Church, the bells of Sanelli Church, long time ago. I don't know exactly the year they started doing that, and when they quit. At 12 noon, somebody used to take care of that, ring the church bells to let us know it was 12 o'clock. They used to ring the bells for the 4th of July, and also they ring the bells for the 4th of July, and also when during the war, whenever a soldier had died during the war, and the relatives got notice, they used to ring the bells, maybe at 9 in the morning or 9 at night. So we wonder what happened when the church bells are ringing. Of course, next day we found out that we had another fallen soldier. And maybe you have been in the church of Sanelli. Have you been? See the names that are written on the wall, on the wall of the church. And they're not all of them, because they're not all of them. But those are all the ones that went to World War II. And outside, where they have another one, that one they added the ones that went to the
It's also World War II.
yeah, to Vietnam. Yeah.
No, World War II only.
Yeah, World War II.
Mhm.
World War II, yeah. But they added also from Clint,
No, not there.
muchos americanos. So we're very proud of our, well, of Sanelli, and especially now it has the memorial for the veterans and Los Portales. It was the first school in Los Portales. I started school there, kindergarten in Los Portales. Of course, we didn't have llaves de agua. We have to pump water to get water to drink. But we really enjoyed just pumping water and letting it run here and there. You know how kids are.
And then
Yes.
the last one on your parents' house.
Oh, and there's also in my father's house, they have very large, his residence, they had a large sala, a very large sala. So the neighbors at that time, when somebody passed away, they didn't take them to the mortuary. They had them in the house, and they built, or they went and buy payments or cleaned. I mean, it's let out coffee, and that was that. And so, as they didn't take them to the mortuary, los velaban en la casa, so they used to borrow my parents' sala, because it was large, and also for weddings. So there was dancing for showers, dancing for weddings. Then they used to have a rosary for someone who passed away. And I remember when I was growing up, about 3 of them, my neighbors, old ladies. One of them was young. It was a very young mother who passed away during birth with her little baby. I remember so well, because I kept looking at the little baby, so cute. And then my mother said she had to close the coffin when everybody went away, so the cats won't go in there, but the baby was so cute. But I don't know what year it was. I was not even I was not even 15 years old when that happened. But it was so funny. Then my aunt and I were thinking the other day, not the other day, a few days ago, once they said, so funny, your house, one night we have rosary because Mrs. Conchita passed away, and they had the rosary there. Then next Saturday there was a shower for somebody that was getting married. Then so in that my mother's house, they had rosaries for people. They didn't do it in the church. I wonder why. That's a question that you had asked. Yeah, because and the first cemetery is the one that's close to the church. And I don't have written down the year of the last lady that was buried there. It was related to the Carrion family, Garcia and Carrion. That's all I remember. She was the last person buried there, and it's close to the church behind the hall. So.
Okay, let me write it down. Okay. All right. Let me go ahead and stop recording real quick.
Okay.